It's back into the archives again, and this time it's back to 2009. And as you can see from the box, this is a model of a luffing jib tower crane, and it's the Liebherr 160 HCL. As you can see, the box is Liebherr branded, and if we go to one end, we can see that the model is made by NZG and it's model number 647.
Let's weigh it up.
As usual, we start on the weighbridge and we measure 4 pounds 11 ounces, and that's 2.12 kilograms. With that done, it's time to open the box and see what's inside. And out come the usual pair of trays. And on top we can see that there's some paperwork, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. The top tray has a lid, and if we take that off, we can see some large elements which look nothing like a crane. But in this model, the top tray has a building and the bottom tray has the parts of the crane. Let's take a look at the instructions that come with the model, and it's on a very long sheet. And it has numbered stages with an explanation in German. But if you can't handle that, the back of the sheet has instructions in other languages. To start the assembly, we need to build a building. And the model comes with columns, floor plates and a lift shaft. As there are screws, you need a screwdriver. Let's get building, and we need to attach the columns to the floor plates. And that's easy to do because the columns are metal and they've been drilled to accept a screw. So you can just screw the column to the floor plate, and here's one made with all 4 columns in place. Now we can build extremely rapidly. Yes, only on cranes etc. will you see a building built this quickly. To top out the building, there are some caps that just go on the top of the columns. And then we need to start attaching the crane parts to the lift shaft. And that's because this model is specifically designed to show how the tower of a tower crane works when it's located within a lift shaft. The lift shaft gets inserted sideways into the building, and that's certainly a novel and unusual construction technique. We then complete the 2 collars, there's one at the bottom and one at the top, and there's a collar piece which fits on top of the frame that we've already installed. Now things get slightly more trickier because we need to feed the tower in through the collars, and that also includes 2 thin ladder frames which are quite tricky to locate. Once set, the tower locks into position with 4 latches at the bottom. We can now build the tower, and there's a section to go on top, and the connections are pin jointed, which are not necessarily the strongest. The main section of the crane comes largely complete out of the box, including the reeving of the luffing gear, and that can be put onto the top of our newly built tower. At this stage things are pretty much in balance, so it looks okay. The rest of the jib comes in 2 sections, and again it's pin jointed. Superglue is provided with the model for these joints, but once you start gluing things you can't take them apart. Before attaching the rest of the jib, we'll fix the counterweight, which is a solid block, and it screws into place. But now things are out of balance, so the crane leans heavily. And that doesn't change when we add on the rest of the jib. Again, it's another pin jointed connection, which isn't necessarily tight enough. And the effect of all these pin jointed connections is that everything goes out of balance and leans. But once fully built and with the jib raised, it looks very good. The building frame has metal columns and plastic floor plates, and the floor plates are numbered. Oddly, the lift shaft doesn't extend to the ground. But the tower crane support beams look good, and the raising mechanism within the tower has been modelled very well. That includes the hydraulic ram and the raising ladders. The tower sections have got plastic platforms and ladders, and bolt heads have been modelled at the section joins. Looking up, the underside of the crane looks very realistic. That includes the slewing ring and the structural counter jib. It also has Liebherr signs at the back and along the sides. The solid counterweight looks like it's sectioned with Liebherr on each section, and step irons have been modelled on the inside. The cab has got tinted windows and there's a windscreen wiper at the front, and there's a cabinet on the outside. The metal handrails look good in this scale, and the machinery platform is also well detailed, including the winch and its motors. There's a ladder which runs to the top of the A-frame, but obviously in this scale the safety cage looks thick. The sheaves on the model are made of metal. The jib is made up of nicely triangulated lattice sections, and there's a solid walkway piece also. The luffing bridle is a nice small piece. The end of the jib is quite heavy because of the maintenance cage and the walkway, and there's also a Liebherr sign. The pendants also have modelled connectors. The unusually shaped Liebherr hook is metal. Rotating the crane works reasonably well. It's not the smoothest model that we've seen, but you can position the crane in any position. To operate the luffing winch, you use the supplied key, and friction is improved by the spring-loaded drum. In practice though, you need to leave the jib at a steep angle for balance. You can raise and lower the hook by using the key in the same way, and the hook has enough weight to provide a reasonable tension on the rope.
Time for a dim check.
Even in 1:87 scale, this is a big model, so let's do a dim check. And to the top is about 113 centimetres, or 44 inches. This is an interesting and unusual model of a tower crane by NZG. And the inclusion of the building structure certainly is something different. The level of detail on the crane was very good for its time, and the main negative point was the pin connections, which are just not as good as something more robust. But it was a very nice model for 2009 when it was rated as very good.